I'm the girl who talks a lot. I'm the girl who always has her head in the clouds. I'm the girl that tries to find the humor in every situation. I'm the girl who's too much. Hi, I'm Sam Richardson, and this is my podcast, Living Richardson.
Part of her mystery is how she is calm in the storm and anxious in the quiet. I read this quote by J.M. Storm, and wow, did it resonate with me. If you've been following along, you should know by now that I am a neurodivergent individual, and I'm not shy about it. Being neurodivergent means that my brain processes, learns, and/or behaves differently from what is considered typical. Getting acquainted with my mental health has been quite the journey. But now that I have embraced this part of me, I am mentally the healthiest I have ever been. No, this does not mean I am cured. Mental illness is something I fight every day, and will do so for the rest of my life. But understanding each of my illnesses, realizing that they do not define me, and embracing them has given me the ability to take back control. Prior to being diagnosed, I was always a huge advocate for mental health and wanted to bring awareness to the cause. This episode is a big deal to me, and I want to do it justice. So I am going to try my absolute best. I am not a clinician, but so many of you have reached out wanting to know about my personal journey, and I'm an open book. Everything I'm about to tell you is from my own experience. What works for me may not work for you. Regardless, I hope after listening to this episode, you feel empowered in some way. If you cracked open my mental health file, it'll read GAD, ADHD, OCD, and PTSD. Animal crackers in my soup, monkeys and rabbits loop-de-loop. Sorry, I'm like a bowl of alphabet soup, and this always makes me think of Shirley Temple, even though the song is about animal crackers and not the alphabet. Let's take a look at what each of these acronyms mean. GAD, General Anxiety Disorder. A disorder characterized by excessive or unrealistic anxiety about two or more aspects of life, often accompanied by symptoms such as palpitations, shortness of breath, and dizziness. Individuals with GAD may find themselves having difficulty sleeping, working, socializing, or enjoying themselves as a result of their worries. According to many online sources, there are 5 main symptoms that will fall under diagnostic criteria for GAD. Restlessness, feeling keyed up or on edge, being easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating or your mind going blank, irritability, muscle tension, and lastly, sleeplessness. I know it's easy to get lost in these symptoms. Everyone experiences those things. If you are not a neurodivergent individual listening to this, you may find it hard to process this information. Yes, everyone experiences these symptoms throughout their life at some point. But when you have a true mental illness, you can't just shake it off or calm down. Every morning I wake up and must choose the type of day I'm going to have. I try my best to digest my alphabet soup, but it has a habit of regurgitating. Listen, I told you my brain doesn't function normally, but thinking of it this way makes sense to me. Every moment of my day can cause an episode, if you will, and I've had to learn how to prevent them, as well as writing them out. Because even though I am the most mentally healthiest I've ever been, I'm not exempt from dark days. ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. This disorder has become more mainstream in recent years, and it comes with a vast range of symptoms that present themselves differently in everyone. According to many online sources, the most common symptoms for adults with ADHD are carelessness and lack of attention to detail, continually starting new tasks before finishing old ones, poor organizational skills, inability to focus or prioritize, continually losing or misplacing things, forgetfulness, restlessness and edginess, difficulty keeping quiet, speaking out of turn, blurting out responses and often interrupting others, mood swings, irritability and a quick temper, inability to deal with stress, extreme impatience, taking risks in activities, often with little or no regard for personal safety or the safety of others. Yeah, ADHD is a real bitch. It's believed that ADHD must be present in childhood first and cannot just appear during adulthood. For someone like me who wasn't diagnosed until adulthood, this makes all the sense in the world. And it makes me hurt for the little Samantha who struggled feeling alone her whole life. OCD, Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. This is a chronic and long-lasting disorder in which a person has uncontrollable, reoccurring thoughts, obsessions, and or behaviors, compulsions, that he or she feels the urge to repeat over and over. OCD is a doozy. All mental illnesses are doozies, but this one has been extremely misunderstood and misrepresented. As I just mentioned, there are two core symptoms that characterize OCD: obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are intrusive and frightening thoughts that you become haunted or obsessed by. Most people get these bizarre thoughts. That's normal. But for a person with OCD, those thoughts become obsessive and will prevent your ability to function until that thought is put to rest by either acting on it or learning how to ride it out. Compulsions are anything that challenges the thoughts, rituals, or things you must do in order to feel safe. This is where the germaphobe stereotype comes in. But it's important to know that not everyone with OCD is a clean freak. I actually believed this misconception up until I was diagnosed in 2017. I am far from being a clean freak. Just ask Kyle. When the psychiatrist told me I have OCD following my evaluation, I laughed and said, "That can't be true." Then he explained the different ways OCD manifests itself that mainstream doesn't cover. People with OCD have the same thoughts as people with normal brains, but our brains get stuck in an uncontrollable loop that we can't stop. It is uncontrollable because no amount of reassurance from someone else or even self-rationalization will help. OCD is not a personality trait, a choice, a quirk, or a joke. So the next time you think about saying something like, "Yeah, I'm so OCD about being on time," or "I'm so OCD about cleaning," shut your yap and stop downplaying a serious illness. And finally, PTSD, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. This disorder is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, by either experiencing it or witnessing it. Wonder where mine stems from. Childhood sexual assault? Losing a child? Surviving domestic violence? Take your pick. People with PTSD have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experience that lasts long after the traumatic event has ended. They may relive the event through flashbacks or nightmares. They may feel sadness, fear, or anger, and they may feel detached or estranged from other people. According to the National Alliance of Mental Health, symptoms of PTSD generally fall into these broad categories: re-experiencing type symptoms, such as reoccurring, involuntary, and intrusive distressing memories, which can include flashbacks of the trauma, bad dreams, and intrusive thoughts. Avoidance, which can include staying away from certain places or objects that are reminders of the traumatic event. A person might actively avoid a place or person that might activate overwhelming symptoms. Cognitive and mood symptoms, which can include trouble recalling the event, negative thoughts about oneself. A person may also feel numb, guilty, worried, or depressed and have difficulty remembering the traumatic event. Cognitive symptoms can in some instances extend to include out-of-the-body experiences or feeling that the world is not real. And arousal symptoms, such as hypervigilance. Examples might include being intensely startled by stimuli that resembles the trauma, trouble sleeping, or outbursts of anger. PTSD symptoms often coexist with other conditions, such as substance use disorders, depression, anxiety, OCD, and borderline personality disorder. However, these other illnesses can make it challenging to treat PTSD. For example, medications used to treat OCD or depression can actually worsen the symptoms of PTSD. Mental health is a barrel of fun, isn't it? Well, there you have it. All the acronyms floating in my bowl of soup. Every day I carry the weight of them and must make the choice to be in control. As a child, I was labeled as the girl who talks too much. All I have to say to that is, look at me now, bitches. I never stopped talking, and boy could I talk fast. Clearly not much has changed there. Honestly, I have to be extremely mindful when recording that I slow my speaking down, and it sometimes feels agonizing to do so. I was also labeled as a daydreamer. Again, I say, look at where my dreams got me now, bitches! I was, and still am, easily distracted and lost in my thoughts. I would spend my free time dancing, reading, or writing, consistently drifting in and out of fantasy, disassociating from real life because I lived in survival mode. Have you ever heard of flight, fight, or freeze? During times of crisis, chaos, and traumatic experiences, we enter what is known as survival mode. Being the freeze protective response, disassociation allows us to separate parts of ourselves from the whole of our experience and can activate without our conscious control. When you enter this shutdown state, you may feel emotions of shame, grief, confusion, sinking, drowning, terror, unworthiness, hopelessness, disconnection, numbness. You may experience a slow heart rate, cold, pale skin, slouched posture, downward gaze, low blood pressure, high pain tolerance, low to no movement, systematic inflammation, and illness or nausea. And you may exhibit behaviors such as isolation, memory loss, quiet crying, low motivation, self-medication, depression naps, suicidal thoughts, self-harm, and even fainting. Up until a few years ago, I spent my entire life feeling like this, and everyone dismissed me as being dramatic. There's Samantha, loud, over the top, and a drama queen. I am a sensitive and emotional person. If that makes me dramatic, then so be it. But that doesn't mean what I'm feeling isn't real. Being dramatic doesn't invalidate you. It just means that you're more in tune with your emotions. And why is that such a bad thing? Why can't we talk about the hard things and lay everything on the table? As an adult, I am in a constant state of overwhelm, trying to manage the details of everyday life. My brain is an internet browser with multiple tabs open, and there's a video playing loudly in each one, begging for me to pay attention to it. I can never feel relaxed until every browser has been addressed and closed. And even then, I find it hard to relax. My anxiety takes over, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something, or I'm invariably waiting for the other shoe to drop. When Kyle and I went on our honeymoon, we booked a couples massage. Prior to the massage, they had us do this hot-cold therapy thing, which, sidebar, I was not a fan of. It was like a shock to my system, and I almost passed out, which, caused a little panic attack. See, it goes everywhere with me. After the hot-cold therapy, They had us lay poolside with aromatherapy cloths over our faces for 15 minutes. Sounds super relaxing, right? For me, it was pure hell. It was impossible to turn my brain off. I kept peeking out my cloth to look at Kyle, who was lost to the world. And man, did that piss me off. Why the hell couldn't I relax like that? Damn it, Kyle. Stupid brain. I couldn't even relax during the massage. The room was beautiful, dark, quiet. The scents of lavender and eucalyptus filled the air. I was in a gorgeous country, spending alone time with the love of my life. No other cares in the world. And my brain was insufferable. Even though the massage was amazing and I never wanted it to end, I still counted down for it to be over. I've never truly been able to live in the moment or be present. I lived my life consistently moving forward because if I paused for too long, the disassociation would start. And man, did that affect my role as a mother. As a single mom when Evangeline was younger, I worked my butt off to make sure she was well provided for. I worked 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. as a state-tested nurse's aide at a local nursing home. I was fortunate to spend the day with my daughter, but because I was living in survival mode, I wasn't really present. Physically, I was there, loving and caring for her, but mentally, I was lost. I've realized how much more present and a better mom I am now that I'm in the process of healing and stabilizing my mental health. I wish so badly that I could have been this type of mother when Evangeline was little. But the past is in the past, and the only thing we can do is learn from it. If we don't have the power to change things, then we need to process, accept, and keep moving forward. I existed in this zombified state until 2017. In a previous episode, I talked about my miscarriage, the blighted ovum. Sidebar again, I have received numerous emails following that episode from women who have also experienced blighted ovums and how they've felt so alone. Ladies, I recognize your losses and I mourn with you. Thank you for feeling comfortable enough to share your stories with me. After experiencing the miscarriage, things got very rocky for my mental health. Now, looking back, maybe the miscarriage was a trigger for losing cadence, or simply the new trauma of losing a pregnancy. Whatever the cause, I spiraled and started disassociating. And actually, that's when Living Richardson was born. I knew I needed to find an outlet again. So I started a blog and an Instagram page. I wanted it to be a lifestyle blog, focusing on how real life honestly is. Being a stay-at-home mom isn't all rainbow glitter and unicorn farts. Managing life after loss, after survival. Obviously, Richardson is my last name, and I thought of the phrase, living rich. How is that defined? Rich as in monetary value, or finding your true self and happiness? This is the point in my life where I realized it was time to take a serious look at my mental health. I started therapy and booked a psychological evaluation with a psychiatrist. I planned on documenting my journey of self-discovery on my new blog in hopes of bringing awareness to mental health and help others who are feeling the same way. Yes, it's no secret I'm a performer. I love to entertain people. But it's not because I want to be fake. It's because I want everyone to feel okay. This is what it's like to live my life. This is Living Richardson. Following my psych evaluation, I was handed the diagnosis of general anxiety disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Animal crackers. I sat in my car crying over the diagnosis, but not because I was ashamed, but because I felt relief. I felt like, For the first time in my life, I understood why my brain worked the way it did. And now I finally believed I had the power to control my life. I, and I alone, had the power to create true happiness for myself. Being diagnosed with a mental illness was life-changing for me in the most positive way. I don't view my illnesses as disorders. They cause disorder in my life. I started on anti-anxiety medications, and believe me when I say it took several different modifications for me to find that perfect pill. And even still, nothing is perfect. Change will come, but I've learned to adapt and adjust. It's important to know that you can't just rely on pills to make the change. That's where therapy comes in. I have always loved inspirational quotes, but I never really believed them. I loved the way my mind could get lost in the heartfelt phrases, but they didn't truly resonate with me until I started therapy. And you need to find a therapist that you connect with. I've been through a few duds there too. Once you find your match, a whole new world is opened. As I sat in my car following the diagnosis, I made a video and posted it on Instagram. My first real and raw mental health video. And I got a lot of flack for it. Mostly from my relatives who felt secondhand embarrassment from me talking about being mentally ill. For me, it was a positive and inspiring video. For them, I was airing dirty laundry. Well, someone's got to clean it. I kept up as much as I could with my blog, but people didn't seem to want realness. They wanted to read about perfect motherhood fantasies and mentally stable influencers. I didn't fit that bubble. A few months into blogging, I got pregnant with Blair. I was sick for most of my pregnancy, so I couldn't devote a lot of time to the blog. After having Blair and adjusting meds, I slowly tried getting back into my blogging. But still, people didn't seem to want real life. My mental health was getting better, and I started to see the light. Then, the world shut down. I think it's safe to say we all disassociated in some way when COVID hit. The entire world impacted by the same trauma. I felt myself getting lost again, so I knew I needed to find an outlet. Evangeline introduced me to this silly clock app. Maybe you heard of it. TikTok? I started making silly videos that related to my personal experiences. Motherhood, marriage, and a few mental health posts thrown in. Then is when people were ready for the realness. And that's when neurodivergent individuals spread their wings and soared. Welcome to the new era. People liked my content, and I started gaining a following. Of course, once you get noticed, the trolls start rolling in. I found out very quickly that it really doesn't matter what you post, someone will be offended by it. When the troll comments first started rolling in, it did affect me. I would reply in a cheeky way to feel empowered and make my voice heard. But I would spend the rest of the day allowing those few comments to eat away at me. The next day, I would make another video and get a bunch of love, completely forgetting about the asshat whose opinion and perception of me is absolutely none of my business. That is when everything truly clicked for me. Going viral and getting trolled online was the best thing to happen to me, because it taught me that I am exactly on the same playing field as everyone else in this world. People can say whatever and feel however they please towards me, and I'm going to be okay. Not everybody is going to like me. I certainly don't like everyone I meet, so why should I expect the same in return? My mental health began to flourish. I had a blast creating humorously relatable content that inspired others. I started realizing that I had the tools to create my own happiness, and I truly started living in the moment. I was even able to get off my medications. Then, this past January, when my grandma fell ill with the new COVID variant and was on a ventilator for 6 weeks, I spiraled so badly, I became physically ill. I was scared. Kyle was scared. I was convinced my life was over. At this time, I was also diagnosed with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. PMDD is a health problem that is like PMS, but it's more serious. PMDD causes severe irritability, depression, or anxiety in a week or two before your period starts. It is debilitating. I am angry, moody, and irritable for weeks on end. I laid around sick in bed, only getting up to care for the kids as needed, but feeling extremely ill while doing so. It was affecting my life so severely that we decided it was time to go back on medication. I was equipped with the tools I learned from therapy on how to recognize my anxiety and call it out for what it was. Your chest isn't collapsing, it's a panic attack. Once I took back control of my mental health, I saw the light once more and could breathe again. Then the neighbor feud started. I felt the spiral start, but this time, I will be damned if I let it take control. My entire life, I have let others dictate on how I'm supposed to feel because it fits their prerogative. That ends now. I have worked too hard to allow outside forces to tear me down. How do I fight back against my disorders? I talk about them. I normalize them. They don't define me. They are part of me. And that's exactly what I've learned to do with my trauma. Unleash the beast. People are allowed to talk about their experiences, traumatic or not. And let's clarify this quickly. Recognizing someone's struggles doesn't take away from anyone else's. That goes for achievements as well. Not everything is a comparison. No one is less than another. Let people feel what they need to feel and stop dictating their lives to them. You're not the one living it. When I went to my platform on social media and vented about my neighbor's camera, I never imagined my face and story would blow up like it did. And I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I disassociate from it, but I've also learned how to bring myself back. Do you have any idea what it's like to record a 2-minute video at 8:30 in the morning while you're having an anxiety attack in your housecoat and morning bedhead and have it go viral? Not just viral on social media, mind you, but articles were also written about it, plastering your morning look on the headlines. Neither do I because I disassociate. Seriously though, it's extremely hard to wrap my head around it. This is actually happening to me. So I have two options. I can stick my head in the ground and let the toxic people overpower me, or I can fight back in my own way. Insert Bertha Basin. In order to keep myself from disassociating and ending up on a grippy sock vacation, I started making content with a water basin in my yard that my neighbor claims is the reasoning for his camera. He wants to watch it, he's gonna get a show. I know, I'm dramatic and over the top. We've already covered that. If this entire experience happened to me prior to last year, I honestly don't know that I would have recovered. This publicity hasn't only brought the good people out, it's also brought out some terrible trolls. I am being harassed and stalked both online and in person. And guess what? I'm going to keep talking about it because it helps me. But it also shows that I'm not backing down no matter how afraid I am. I have fought tooth and nail to get where I am today, and I will be damned if I let anyone have control over me again. Some of you have reached out and would like to know more about what it's like for Kyle, a non-neurodivergent person, being married to a neurodivergent person. I think the specific topic deserves a full episode, so that will be to come, and I'll have Kyle join me for the discussion. For now, I will tell you that at first it was hard for Kyle to understand why I reacted to things the way I did. When things got bad in 2017, I convinced him to sit in on my therapy sessions. This was the best thing we could have done for our marriage. Even though it was my therapy sessions, Kyle was able to hear my troubles and comprehend them in a new way. You also need to realize that therapy won't work unless you want it to. Even with the right therapist, you must be the one willing to make the effort. I'm fortunate enough to have a husband that loves me enough to put his own personal feelings towards therapy aside and put mine first. He learned that the best way to help me is by just being there. When I'm feeling anxious, I hug him, and he lets me linger for as long as I need, never pushing me away or making me feel like a burden. And those little moments get me through. I want to talk about trauma bonding versus authentic bonding in a relationship. And what I'm about to say goes for all relationships, not just intimate ones. You betray yourself and all your needs to feel loved when you're in a trauma bond. Your relationship mirrors the pattern of your past, especially your childhood experiences. This brings on a chaotic and unpredictable roller coaster of emotions. You feel as though you need this person to survive. You aren't complete without them. In an authentic bond, the other person doesn't make you who you are. They simply enhance your true self. You do the work to meet your own needs first, and your relationship is based on freedom, accountability, and mental peace. I love Kyle with all of my heart and soul. I am truly a better person being with him. But as much as I want to share my life with him, I know that if one day I find myself without him, I'll be okay. He is my safe place right now. He is my home. But if that were to change one day, I will process, adapt, adjust, and thrive, because my happiness depends on me. A few years ago, I started recognizing the symptoms that I had as a child in my oldest daughter. Instead of chalking it up like generations did before us and labeling her as a talkative, dramatic girl, I set her up with tools she will need to succeed in a world that isn't kind to neurodivergent people. She was evaluated, and wouldn't you know, she's been eating the same alphabet soup as me. Her diagnosis reads general anxiety disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Things have gotten scary a few times with her, and that's something maybe we'll be able to talk about at a later point in time if she's comfortable. But we continue to work on all of our mental health as a family and how we can thrive as a whole. But she is very open about her mental health as well. I try to teach her that having a diagnosis isn't anything to be ashamed of. We should embrace these parts of ourselves and learn the skills needed to survive in a society that decided people like us were less than and unworthy. I mean, really though, who decided that? And why do we all follow suit? Yes, I am loud, and every emotion I feel completely takes over my body and mind. But there is nothing wrong with me. Having a mental illness does not give anyone permission to gaslight you. Really, no one has permission to gaslight you. But society seems to think that people who are labeled as different are doormats with invalidated feelings, thoughts, and opinions. We also need to stop gaslighting ourselves. Self-gaslighting is when you say things to yourself like, I am being too emotional. Others have it worse than I do. There must be something wrong with me. Am I making it up? Ooh, that one cuts deep. For most of my life, my worries and concerns were dismissed. I was constantly told, it's not that big of a deal. So naturally, when a new event occurs, my brain is like, psh, another day, another trauma. No biggie. Trauma says you're too much just by existing. If you show your true self, no one will love you. But when you heal, you understand that there are going to be people who don't like you, and you're going to be just fine with that. The healing process is ugly as hell. It's not aromatherapy and bubble baths. It's holding yourself accountable. It's the feeling of guilt. It's addressing your bad habits and getting to the root of the problem, which is intense and triggering. Your new life is going to cost you your old one. Your perception on your experiences is going to be validated, and you become your authentic self. You identify your triggers and you set the appropriate boundaries without taking a second glance. What can trigger your trauma? Oh, baby, so many things. Sounds, people, smells, thoughts, places, the media, feelings, situations. Anything can be a trigger. You can be healing and still be triggered, afraid, emotionally closed off, and unclear about what to do next. And that is okay. Healing is not perfection. It's small steps forward, and sometimes a few steps back. Healing is also realizing that everyone has their own shit, and it's not all about you. When someone takes something out on you, it's important not to beat yourself up for their behavior. They're probably dealing with something, they don't know how to deal, so it oozes out and it spills over to you. But don't soak it up. Don't you dare eat anyone else's soup. Don't let anyone else's behavior undo all the work you've done on yourself. And for goodness sake, can we stop being the bigger person? Listen, I understand staying civil, but after a pattern is made, we are allowed and entitled to put our foot down and say, enough is enough. And that all goes back to setting boundaries. Whew, I could talk circles around the topic of mental health, and I think I pretty much have. Hopefully this wasn't too hard to follow along. If it was, well, welcome to what it's like to live inside my brain. The wheels are constantly turning. As I leave you for today, just remember that we've all done unforgivable things. We've all stayed up too late overthinking. We have all let someone down. We are all human, and your feelings are valid. You are worthy. And remember, as my therapist recently told me, you can't put a sticker on a piece of shit and wonder why it still smells. We need to address things for what they are, and then we can properly flush them away. It's going to hurt. And that's good, because if it didn't, you're probably a psychopath. In the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Buddha. To stay in touch with me outside this podcast, follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram at Living Richardson, or even join Bertha's Tribe of Glory Holes on our Facebook page. Look up Glory Holes, Basin Warriors. Also, as requested, you can find Glory Hole merch on my website, livingrichardson.myshopify.com. I hope you were able to take something away from this episode. If you find that after listening you relate to a lot of the things I talked about, I urge you to seek out therapy. Start there. Email me. Start there. If you were able to take something away from this and you think that someone else could benefit from it too, please share the love. I'll catch you next time, Glory Holes. Thanks for listening.